Hey, my name is Jonathan, and I am doing a vlog in a pavilion right now because it's raining outside. I actually just went to my favorite field, and you know my famous field out there, and I was still feeling really horny out there because I love fields, and especially raining on a field is so incredibly erotic. But I should probably not say that doing a vlog like this. Again, my feet want to say hi. It's my feet, my very dirty feet. I love walking outside barefoot. Now, what I want to talk about is salvation. Comparing salvation in the Eastern churches and the Western churches. Now, salvation is extrinsic to Protestants and Christians, whereas salvation is intrinsic to Orthodox Christians. Like in Western Christianity, salvation is fundamentally extrinsic, where it's quite literally in the Western Church to Protestants and Catholics, like to evangelicals, salvation is quite literally carrying a card. It's like a card you carry. Salvation is a card that you carry. It's like you say the sinner's prayer in evangelicalism, and you get a card signed. It gets signed on a card. The fact you said a sinner's prayer gets signed on a card. So it's quite literally a card you carry. Salvation is extrinsic. However, in the Eastern Church, to us Eastern Orthodox Christians, salvation is intrinsic. It's intrinsic in Eastern Christianity. So there's a very subtle difference. Like you could say, well of course salvation is intrinsic because it's supposed to be. But if you say that as a Protestant or evangelical Christian, it's a very subtle difference. And you say, well, it's intrinsic, but it's not really intrinsic to Protestants and Catholics. It's like what salvation is in Eastern Christianity to Eastern Orthodox Christians is every step that you walk. That is salvation. It's something very dynamic, something very life-giving. Salvation is every breath. It's your very breath. Every breath that you take is fundamentally salvation. Like yesterday, I went to a baptism for evangelical Christians, and because I'm a convert to Eastern Orthodoxy. I used to be an evangelical Christian, but I went to a baptism, and the pastor said that to the people that were getting baptized, that baptism is just a symbol of salvation. It's like, and he said, the pastor said, baptism is a symbol of salvation. Because it's a public statement of faith. But to the Eastern Orthodox Christian, he made a contradiction. That is a contradiction to Eastern Orthodox Christians because a public statement is an act of salvation. Because giving a public statement to your faith, that is a salvation expressed. That saves you. Giving a public statement is salvation. That does save you, and it gives you life. But I know I was christened in 2007, but it still sounded weird for me as a convert for someone to say baptism is just symbolic because it's a public statement of your faith. A huge contradiction for me, because what salvation is to Eastern Orthodox Christians, it's life in Christ. Salvation is fundamentally dynamic, and it's always growing, because salvation is life in Christ. Life in Christ, life inherently is dynamic and always growing. Just like evangelicals you ask Jesus in your heart, you say the sinner's prayer, and asking Jesus into your heart, that's getting close to an action of the heart, but it's still like no different than how Catholics view baptism. You say the sinner's prayer, asking Jesus into your heart is still extrinsic form of salvation, because it's like a stamp of approval where you become a card-carrying evangelical when you say the sinner's prayer, when you ask Jesus into your heart. It's no different than how Catholics understand baptism. You become baptized a Catholic, and you're a card-carrying Catholic. Something very legalistic. As if you understand salvation as once saved, always saved, you ask Jesus into your heart, and it's an action. Like, it's one time in your life, you're saved. It's still legalistic. That leaves a vacuum for legalism. If you're saved being saved is like justification and sanctification, happen in one moment. It leaves a vacuum for legalism, because the focus in life in general, when you live life, the focus is on what you are doing now. That's what like salvation is in the here and now. Like you're watching this vlog, and because you are still moving and still breathing, and you're saved, and you look like you got saved like years ago, but you are still moving and still breathing. And I'm gonna do this vlog in 2 parts because there's people coming and I feel self-conscious. Hold on.